The patrol started as we were moving up to do a sensitive site exploitation on a suspected insurgent location, and it was in a canyon located in a range of mountains right on the border of Farah Province and Herat Province in western Afghanistan. As our lead vehicle tried to get into the canyon, there was an insurgent vehicle blocking the entrance to the canyon, and so or the cart path through the canyon. So we dismounted, and several of us pushed up into the canyon. That's when the enemy, who were concealed in the cliffs to the north, opened up on us. Mm-hmm. And so they initiated with pretty much everything they had. Mm-hmm. We were in this canyon, and it was very hard at first to localize where the shooting was. Mm-hmm. We knew we were being shot at by people above us, but we were essentially in a box canyon, and so they could be almost 360 degrees around us shooting down. So there was a little initial confusion, because the echoing is we're all yelling to each other, where are they? The guys on the cliffs above us to the north were really laying into us pretty hard. And so I ended up seeking cover with several other guys behind the lead ground mobility vehicle that we had. And there was one of the Marines had been shot to my immediate east, and had a serious gunshot wound to the upper thigh. And another Marine, the MARSOC team sergeant named Johnny Moser, who later received a Navy Cross for this, ran out and grabbed that guy that went down and dragged him back to cover and began to treat him for his leg injury. There's another guy, young staff sergeant named Eddie Heredia, who was hit in the leg, and he put a tourniquet. I watched him put a tourniquet on his own leg, and then return fire. Enemy rounds were able to pass through the open gunner's turret, through the floor of the vehicle. The enemy had a very high angle of fire, which is to say, if you imagine, if the top of this file cabinet right here is the top of the vehicle, the enemy are up there. And so if I come out this way from the top of that vehicle, they can shoot us. If we go underneath the vehicle, the rounds that they're putting through the open gunner's tub will go through. So there was a very narrow space where we weren't going to get shot by the rounds coming through the tub, and we weren't going to get shot by the rounds coming over the top. And so, and as time went on, there was very little cover available, because these guys were almost right on top of us. MARSOC corpsman for the lead team, I don't know where he came from, but he kind of, I was beside the vehicle, and he kind of all of a sudden almost did like a baseball slide into me, and asked me where Sergeant Heredia was, because he knew that Sergeant Heredia had been hit. He'd already heard that, so he asked me, where's Eddie? Where's Sergeant Heredia at? And then as he asked that, he was hit. The corpsman was struck by a round that hit him in the center left of his back, and exited the kind of the center right of his abdomen. So he went down right there. And so I dragged him behind cover and started to treat him. And so I was treating him, and I began to hear a lot of shouting to my rear, which would have been to the east. And so I looked back behind me and saw that Staff Sergeant Heredia who had been shot before, and I had watched him put a tourniquet on his leg and return fire. And now he's laying motionless out in the open, and it's apparent that he's been hit again, and he appeared dead or close to death. And so, as he was in the open, and I figured he was probably dead, I returned my attention to treating the corpsman, who was in very, very bad shape. A short time later, some of the Marines who were seeking concealment behind one of the insurgent vehicles that was there, they ran out and grabbed Eddie Heredia and dragged him back to the concealment offered by that insurgent vehicle. And they started they realized that they were unable to treat his injuries due to the severity of his injuries, and they started calling to me to move to their location. And so I moved to their location, and I assessed and tried to treat Staff Sergeant Herat, but he died shortly after I got there. I took a lot of fragmentary and shrapnel injuries. I was hit once in the weapon, twice in the armor, and once through my pant leg. Number one, kind of taking things one step at a time. And then also we train all the time for the worst case scenario. And that was a day where all that training paid off. And so guys were calling for me to move to their location. And so the only thought I remember having at the time was, as I was in one location preparing to move to another, I just remember telling the guys around me, hey, I need some covering fire, and then getting up and going. I don't really I don't remember a whole lot of, you know, internal debate about whether to go or not. There were guys who were dying and they needed my assistance, and the guys called for me, and so I went. So eventually we realized that it was going to be up to us to, if we were going to get out of there, it was going to be left to us, because close air support was not having the desired effect. And so we kind of cooked up a little course of action that we would, through the cover of airstrikes and throwing smoke grenades, we would try to move guys in kind of onesies and twosies, leapfrogging from cover to cover within the kill zone to get us out. And so we began to do that, and it took quite a while, because we'd have to, between, airstrike would come, we'd know the airstrike was inbound, we'd throw smoke, airstrike would hit, everyone would open up with everything they had, while 2 or 3 guys might run to the next little piece of cover. And we kept moving guys like that. And eventually we were able to get most guys to the, there's one very large rock that we were able to see cover behind. We were able to get most guys behind that. And at that point in time, a Marine who's never been named nor recognized for this, and he wouldn't appreciate me saying his name, but a Marine climbed up the cliff to the east with a M249 and essentially began laying fire into the insurgent positions. He was across the canyon from them, and between him being up there and putting down that fire and additional airstrikes and additional fire from pretty much everyone involved, we were able to get everyone outside the kill zone, and we were able to get that MARSOC corpsman onto the helicopter, and he ended up surviving. He was flown directly to the forward surgical team at Farah, and they were able to save his life. There was probably maybe 6. And I'm not the kind of guy who, I don't have PTSD, I don't have nightmares. What happened, and I am honored to have stood side by side with some of the finest warriors on earth that day, and fought side by side with them. But I guess the only takeaway I could say is that there is no substitute for good training, and it was the only thing that kept our element from being completely wiped out was good training and guys with an ability to think on their feet.